All right, back on sportsBIT betting insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Wednesday, January 18th, big game breakdown. Grizzlies and the Red Hot Wizards from Washington. We'll get to that. Also, OKC and the Warriors. Good game in the ACC. Notre Dame and Florida State. Plus, movers and shakers in the NBA with the deep dive was always the play of the day to finish it out as well. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books in a second. Let's start with some Super Bowl matchups and possible odds here, Teddy. At the Westgate here in Las Vegas, the AFC is 54.5 against the NFC.
Yeah, and that is essentially a Patriots line. And we'll talk about that in a minute when we look at the William Hill numbers. But AFC -3 says New England's going to win because Pittsburgh's not going to be laying 3 to either Atlanta or Green Bay. So if you like the Steelers to beat the Patriots, that correlates strongly with a wager on the NFC plus the 3 in the Super Bowl. You understand the correlation there? Just one opportunity. If you like A, why not bet B too? Makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. Now, yesterday, William Hill put up the possible matchups. Let's start with New England. New England 3.5 against Atlanta and 3 against Green Bay. Well, Green Bay's a 5-point underdog on Sunday. Why are the Packers getting only 3 and Atlanta's 3.5?
Well, remember, the Super Bowl is such a unique line. Really, in all sports all year long, there's probably only one game that public money really matters, and that's the Super Bowl. So, Green Bay doesn't have a little bandwagon. They have a huge bandwagon right now. They've come on like a freight train. And think, if they beat Atlanta, let's show the picture. There's the Packers celebrating. They're going to the Super Bowl. They just beat Atlanta. That bandwagon has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. Aaron Rodgers is a superstar. Everyone knows him. He's crossed over into the mainstream. They don't have to worry about attracting Green Bay money. They're going to get plenty of Green Bay money. However, when it comes to the Falcons don't have a national following. They don't have a superstar quarterback, regardless of how good Matt Ryan's season was. And let's flash the pick. If Atlanta goes to the Super Bowl, yay, Falcons! They won't have that same level of broad public support that Green Bay does. Hence the fact that the Patriots line is going to be higher against Atlanta, even though right now Atlanta is power rated about a point and a half, maybe even 2 points better than Green Bay in most mainstream power rating numbers.
Good thoughts there, because Green Bay would beat the 1 and the 2 seed, both on the road to get to the Super Bowl. And of course, I like them and respect them, but most people can't stand the Patriots, so they want to see them go down and throw some money there on that one. How about the Steelers? Pick them against both Atlanta and Green Bay.
Yeah, and this is a pretty, obviously, as neutral a number as you can get. I would expect, again, if the underdog goes on the road and gets the straight-up win, all right, Pittsburgh, they got a pretty high ticket count last week against Kansas City. They were saying 2-1, 3-1 Steelers. If they go to New England and pull the outright upset, you're going to see that bandwagon go bigger. I personally think that the Packers would be favored over the Steelers if both underdogs win. But the line right now says pick them. Versus Atlanta, I think that Pittsburgh might end up going off minus. I think they'd be short chalk against Atlanta and short dogs against Green Bay. Even though, again, right now, the Falcons are the team with the higher power rating. Should the Packers win, that won't be the case anymore. And should the Steelers win, they're going to get an enormous amount of respect going up to Foxborough and beating Tom Brady and company. That will be reflected in the Super Bowl number.
All right, let's talk about some more odds. This is from Bet Online that came out yesterday. Where will Tony Romo play next year? Denver 5-2, Texans 4-1, Jets 5-1, Bears 5-1, Jets 6-1, Dallas and KC 8-1. Interesting that a columnist in Kansas City wrote, time to get rid of Alex Smith. You can get rid of him. You don't have to pay him any more money. How about Romo in Kansas City? But also Peter King, Sports Illustrated, wrote Monday that he thinks the Texans are going to get rid of Osweiler and they're going to take the cap hit. Oh, with that defense and getting J.J. Watt back with Lamar Miller and Hopkins, what a great deal that move that could be if Romo goes to the Texans.
All right. 2 things to discuss here. First, I'm not a fan of these odds. You're talking about GMs who none of us talk to, okay, who are always spreading disinformation throughout the media and using columnists to spread their message, whatever it's supposed to be. And, when you talk about, what do they got, 6 different teams, 7 different teams listed, the house cut on this is significant. It's a fun wager to talk about, but not anything I would actually put money on. It's a negative expectation bet. I think he'd be a great fit in Houston. I think he'd be a great fit in Denver, for that matter. When you talk about a short-term rental, I don't think he'd be bad in Chicago. I mean, there's lots of places where teams aren't that far away from being competitive, even though I know the Bears have had 2 back-to-back rough seasons. They're supposed to be a lot better next year.
Yeah, you can throw them out. I can't believe the Bears are 5-1. There's no way he wants to go there. And I laugh at the Denver odds, too. Elway took Paxton Lynch in the first round. They're not going to give up on him that soon.
Who's saying giving up on him? You're talking about renting Romo for a year or two. Paxton Lynch wasn't ready this year, okay? I don't know that he's going to be ready next year. And I would expect on opening day next year, if Denver doesn't make an aggressive move, that Trevor Siemian will be the starting quarterback once again. And you ask me, does your team have a better chance of making a Super Bowl with this elite defense with Tony Romo as a rental for a year or two? A team that rented Peyton Manning, they have Manning for 3 years? I don't think Romo's a bad fit there.
Well, not to mention the guy's a China doll, too. Who knows? Maybe one hit and his career's over. That's something to consider as well. Maybe you don't give up a high draft pick for him, although we just saw what Bradford went for as well. Bad beats and bad for the books. How about Brooklyn? Plus 9.5, closed plus 8, lost by 10. You had 11.5 in your pocket.
Yeah, there were 12s out there earlier in the day, So this is why I was mad at myself for having the plus 11.5 when there were 12s widely available. I'm like, I like to get the very best of the number. That being said, I couldn't complain when the 11.5 cashed. But it was there was still a 9.5. Well, of course, the big move based on Kyle Lowry. The news was that Kyle Lowry was going to sit. Teams are sitting anyone they can against Brooklyn. It's not that hard to beat the Nets. They're not playing a whole lot of defense. And Brooklyn actually led outright at halftime. Really faded down the stretch. No Lowry, no problem. Corey Joseph was on fire. 15 of 22 from the floor. 33 points in just 37 minutes and only 1 turnover. So, I cashed with the Nets. All kinds of bettors cashed with Toronto. It was a bad beat, bad for the books, however you want to describe it. The bottom line is that this is one that not a great result, I don't know, necessarily for anybody.
No, bad for the books continues. College hoops, St. Bonnie's bet up from 9.5 to 12, wire to wire over St. Louis. They win by 19. And the wise guys bet the Mavs down to 7 in Chicago. They went outright.
Yeah, I mean, the Bulls are clearly not a winning streak type of team. And they had 1 4-game winning streak. That was back in November. And coming off back-to-back wins, the market said, with Chicago. And all of a sudden, Dallas is healthy. They got Darren Williams, Wesley Matthews, J.J. Barea, Devin Harris all on the floor, giving them 4 veterans in the backcourt. Dirk back on the floor. They've won 3 straight, and don't look now. The Dallas Mavericks, who stunk. They were the worst in November and December. They're only 3 games out of the number 8 seed in the West. Perhaps a team you may want to think about adjusting your power ratings up a notch or 2 in the weeks to come.
And we'll kick that around in the deep dive. Up next, big game breakdown. We'll start with the Grizzlies and the red-hot Wizards at home. We'll run that down for you coming up on SportsBIT. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
That's right, the 8th annual SBR Forum Bash will be held at the breathtaking all-inclusive Hard Rock Hotel in Punta Cana on Super Bowl weekend. Join Natalie Rydstrom and the Odds Couple as they mingle with SBR pros and have fun under the sun. Stay tuned for video coverage of Bash activities, including a $5,000 poker tournament sponsored by uwager.eu. Only on SBR, your sportsbook authority since 1999.
Back on SportsBIT, follow us on Twitter at Pauly Howard at Teddy_covers. Big game breakdown, as always, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Grizzlies and the Wizards. Wizards 3, 205 the total. Can the markets catch up with the Wizards? 12 straight home wins, 11-1 ATS. They're talking home court in the playoffs, Teddy.
They sure are. And again, 12 straight at home, 11-1 ATS. They're laying 3. They're laying 3. They were laying 3 the other day. The markets have not been paying a whole lot of attention. They're hot on the heels of Atlanta in the Southeast Division. They have a legit shot, as you mentioned, at home court in the first round, and it's not a fluke. Look, John Wall might be the most underrated player in the NBA. I was trying to think, is there anyone more? Can you think of someone that's more underrated than Wall? Because I can't. The guy's a superstar, and he doesn't get that type of credit. And Otto Porter coming into his own. Look at these 2 graphics right here. real plus minus, the advanced metric stats. There you have Paul and Lowry among the point guards, Westbrook, Curry. Oh, there's John Wall on that list. Look at the small forwards, the real plus minus. Yeah, you have the superstars, Jimmy Butler, LeBron James, and Kawhi, and Greek Freak, and Durant. Oh my God, there's Otto Porter on that list. Yeah, Washington's talent is there, at least for the starters. Their biggest issue is depth, but depth not a factor tonight. It's only the third game in 7 days, all at home, and basically the first two were scrimmages. They blew out Philly, and they blew out Portland.
I'll go Greek Freak for underrated. Still doesn't give enough attention for the monster numbers he's put up. Meanwhile, the Grizzlies, caught near the end of a tough cycle, 14 straight court change. This game marks playing in all 4 time zones over the course of 6 games. Finally return home for a 3-game homestand after this, and there'll be 3 straight off days at home next week as well. They need to get Gasol back on track.
Well, I mean, he came back to life against the Bulls on Sunday. You know, he's gone through a rough stretch where he was about 13 points and less than 6 rebounds per game over a 3-game stretch. That was on the heels of that overtime win at Golden State, where Marc Gasol, the aging vet, not aging vet, but the vet, he played over 40 minutes in that game, and he was ice cold and clearly showed the effects after that. But against the Bulls on Sunday, 24 points, 11 rebounds, certainly better form from Memphis's most important player. But, you know, in my mind, this quote from David Fizdale tells us a lot about the Grizzlies' mindset. They're trying to patch through injuries still. They've been banged up all year. And schedule-wise, when you're talking about 14 straight court changes, we're talking about being in all 4 time zones over the past 6 games, that can be problematic. Here's Fizdale, quote, "We're trying to feel our way through this thing and see what works and what doesn't work as we get these guys back healthy and getting their legs under them. We just got to figure it out, but we're definitely going to keep fighting and be more consistent." Memphis has been a consistent team game to game, half to half. You know, we saw that insanity when they rallied back from, 20 down against Houston last week. After playing so badly in the first half, they got pissed off about it. Not necessarily going to happen this time around. It's Washington, the undervalued commodity right now.
Game number 2 is always live on sportsbookreview.com, 7:30 Pacific on ESPN. Thunder and the Warriors. Warriors 12.5, 227 the total. Revenge or another beatdown? Golden State was laying 12. They won 122-96 in the first meeting, 68-43 at the half. Then they coasted. They led by as many as 31 in that game. KD, remember there was some back and forth with the OKC bench. He had 39 points in 31 minutes.
Yeah, but you can talk about the Warriors' offense all you want. The defense was what cranked up against Cleveland the other night. Look at this stat, all right? LeBron James, 2 assists, 6 turnovers. Kyrie Irving, 2 assists, 6 turnovers. The Warriors nearly had as many steals. They had 10 steals as the Cavs had assists in that game, 11. All right, that's defense. And now it's a Warriors team. They're fresh again. This is only their 4th game in 10 days on this homestand. And we talked a lot about the Thunder and their issues when it comes to scheduling. This is the stupidest road trip in recent NBA history. There's 16th straight court change for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And they'll be trying to play this game without one of their key bodies.
How about that? No Adams. He returned to OKC. Thunder got thumped 47-36 on the boards in Los Angeles without him, and they allowed 33 of 54 on 2-point shot attempts as they were run out in that one. We'll get back to this with the play of the day. One more, college hoops, live on sportsbookreview.com. Great game. Notre Dame and Florida State. Florida State at home 6, 155.5 the total. Florida State won at Virginia. Very hard to do. They got the blowout of Duke. Played better than the 96-83 final at North Carolina, down by 6 with 5 minutes left. Don't sleep on this team. This is a top 15 team, Teddy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how high can Florida State go might be the question worth asking right here, because they beat, again, the straight-up win at Virginia, a blowout over Duke, and the North Carolina game, they fell behind, they rallied back, they fell behind, they rallied back. They were only down 6 points with 5 minutes left. Don't be fooled at all by that 13-point margin and the Tar Heels cover in that contest. And it's worth noting, they ran with North Carolina. Nobody runs in Chapel Hill. Nobody wants to run in Chapel Hill, but Leonard Hamilton has one of the deepest rotations in the country. He used 12 players in that game, and no one going more than 30 minutes. In fact, they're the only team in the ACC that doesn't have a single player going at least 70% of the team minutes. Here's Leonard Hamilton's quote. We haven't had a lot of quality depth the past couple years. We just now have our full complement that allows us to use everyone. We're fortunate that these guys are not coming in just to spell guys, but contributing at a high level.
They are 33rd in tempo. Now you're taking on Notre Dame, and Bray doesn't want any part of that. They're 250th in tempo in a much shorter rotation, but few teams have better ball skills. 300 assists versus 157 turnovers. Number 3 in the nation in ratio of turnovers per possession. Well-coached team.
Oh, yeah, but you haven't even mentioned the stat that blows my mind. They're hitting just shy of 83% as a team from the free throw line. Not only is that number 1 in the nation, that's a record-breaking pace, and nobody hits free throws anymore. Notre Dame hits them, and of course, when you talk about what do, they don't beat themselves. They're a veteran team. We love veteran teams that don't beat themselves on the road. And you look at the Irish away from home in hostile environments, 3-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread on the ACC road, or you can go 2-0-1. They haven't lost a game against the spread on the ACC road, winning outright as a dog twice already. But while I love Notre Dame as a team that I want in hostile environments, I worry about the depth factor wearing them down against the talent level and the depth that Florida State has. Notre Dame won't beat themselves, but Florida State might be good enough to beat them anyway.
Yeah, some great information there. Round of applause for Notre Dame from the line, too. That is refreshing. Up next, the deep dive. Movers and shakers in the NBA and the play of the day on SportsBIT. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Wrapping it up on SportsBIT, Betting Insight today. Time for the deep dive. Movers and shakers in the association. Great time of the year right now, Teddy. Long run between here and the All-Star break. 4 full weeks coming up.
Yeah, I mean, there's only the All-Star break is basically Wednesday, the 15th of February. There's a couple games on Tuesday, the 16th of February, which gives us a full month, 4 full weeks of hardcore action, where most teams playing 3, 4, even 5 times a week. There's a significant run between now and the break, and the markets tend to lag behind the morphers at this time of the year. The goal of this segment, this deep dive today, talk about teams that are morphing, going from bad to good or good to bad.
On the way up, you know where we're starting. Trust the process, baby. The Sixers on a nice run here. It's been so good, Embiid's talking playoffs.
Look, the Phillies 6-2 straight up in their last 8 games. That's their best stretch, and I don't even know how long. I think probably 5 years for the Sixers. Now, I do have one concern about Philadelphia. Ben Simmons is back in practice. He's been doing warm-up drills with them. They're talking about Simmons moving over to man the point in the not-too-distant future. I've read some reports he's not going to be on the floor till after the All-Star break. Other reports seem to indicate he may be getting his first floor time prior to the break. I'm not saying that Ben Simmons on the floor for Philadelphia is going to make them worse in the long term. In the short term, it probably will. And that's my biggest concern about the Sixers right now. But this is a team that has lost every close game forever. They're finding ways to pull some of these games out in the latter stages. They're responding well to adversity on the road, and the Philadelphia 76ers have been my single biggest power rating riser over the course of the last couple of weeks.
Back to the Wizards. Can they find a bench? Will they make some moves here? And Scotty Brooks doing a nice job the last few weeks.
He sure has. I mean, the starting 5 can play with anyone. We talked about John Wall earlier in the show. We talked about Otto Porter earlier in the show. Bradley Beal on a nice roll. Marcin Gortat all of a sudden loves everyone. If they found a bench, Scott Brooks really might have something for Washington. But, Porter, a guy who was, the number 3 overall pick a couple years ago, he's taking his sweet time about developing, but he's looking real good in recent weeks. And with him playing at a high level, Washington becomes a pretty good team.
Yeah, one more on the going up. The Mavs, they're getting healthy. Remember, they started 2-13 straight up and 4-11 ATS.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are actually worse than that, but the very worst of it was that 2-13 straight up start, 4-11 ATS. Since that time, they still have a losing record. I think they're 12-14 in their last 26 ball games, but 16-10 against the number. They've won 3 in a row. And again, they're healthy. This is a team that wasn't healthy at all. Now, all of a sudden, Harrison Barnes had all that playing time as their number 1 guy. Now he fits in nicely with Dirk. And again, the backcourt with Williams, Matthews, Barea, Harris, 4 veterans, all of a sudden this team's only 3 games out of the 8th seed in the West. Worth watching. Dallas has money-making potential.
On the way down, the Thunder. This scheduling thing isn't going to go away anytime soon, Teddy. It's going to last a few more weeks.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Oklahoma City with the ridiculous number of court changes. Well, I think it was 23 in a row. We went through and counted them for a show earlier in the week. When you have a team that doesn't get any homestands, doesn't play in the same place for 23 consecutive games, I mean, the inevitable wear and tear. We saw it against the Clips. We're going to talk about it in Play of the Day in a few moments. The raw numbers may not account for the brutal scheduling for Oklahoma City as much as they should. And they could end up undervalued if they still have any legs left by March and April because they're supposed to stink for the next couple of weeks. A bet against squad due to all the fatigue factor.
And the Hornets, a rough road trip. 0-5 straight up, 1-7 straight up their last 8. Now a homestand begins. It's the Warriors, the Raptors, and the Surging Wizards.
Well, yeah, that's just it. I mean, they got Portland tonight. Then after that, it is a tough stretch. And Charlotte, a team that was moneymaker early in the season. I had a lot of hopes for the Hornets as a team that was going to put some money in my pocket. That hasn't been the case in recent weeks. They're really struggling on both ends of the court. Part of it, of course, Nick Batum not being at 100%, although he is back on the floor for Charlotte now after missing a couple of games last week.
And how about the Clippers? Again, CP3 out 6 to 8 weeks. And now it means a lot of Austin Rivers and Crawford jumpers, which you saw what happened a couple weeks ago. Disaster.
Yeah, all right, don't forget J.J. Redick. He'll be launching them up, too. Look at this chart from ESPN Stats and Info talking about how good Chris Paul has been. All right. On the floor versus off the floor. Look at just that second number right there. Plus 15.9 with him on the floor. Minus 4.9 with him off the floor. Their assist numbers way higher. Their field goal percentage way higher. Their offensive efficiency drops by 11 points per 100 possessions without Chris Paul on the floor. It's an impact injury. The LA Clippers, who have suffered more than their fair share of Blake Griffin injuries in recent years, now will be playing without their other superstar, and this is not good news for Doc Rivers and company, though it'll be interesting to see how the markets respond to this. There's a chance, after all this, the Clips might be an undervalued commodity, but I don't think so.
All right, you looking forward to tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Pacific?
Oh, yeah, it was a ton of fun last week. Thanks to all of you that did our Google Hangouts last week. I didn't have Pauly. Unfortunately, we had a technical snafu, but we're going to do it again. 8 o'clock Pacific, 11 o'clock Eastern time, live, Pauly and I on Google Hangouts. You can follow us on Twitter. Get the links from there. Go to SBR. They'll have links there, obviously. But a good chance if you have specific questions, comments, whatever you want, we're live. I'm looking forward to it a lot, Pauly. How about you?
Yeah, and technical snafu is code for I'm an idiot and I have issues with working computers. Thank God for Juan back at SBR to help me out. Money time, play of the day, betting number 518. We're going back to Golden State here, Teddy. We're laying the chalk again.
Yeah, it's all chalk for us in the NBA lately, Pauly. But we saw what the Warriors did to Cleveland. Golden State playing at a very high level right now. This is a team we can lay doubles with comfortably. Blow it against OKC last time. I don't think that Kevin Durant has forgotten some of the things Russell Westbrook and the Thunder have been saying. Lay it with Golden State. Game number 518. Warriors minus 12.5. That's our play of the day.
All right, fun show coming up. Look for us tomorrow with the chat at 8 o'clock Pacific. Looking forward to that as well. And it should be a great turnout. And we'll talk to you then on SportsBIT. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.